Over the last year, we have done a ton of NBA draft content, and for the first time on this channel, I want to do a strict college basketball video, and today I'm going to be giving you guys my official 2025 college basketball predictions. So we're going to go through each major conference. I'm going to be giving you guys my top 5 teams within those conferences, my top 5 in the non-power conferences. I'm going to give you my top 10 teams overall for this season. We'll talk about the top 10 prospects for the 2025 NBA draft that you need to keep an eye on, and the top 10 players that probably won't get drafted, or at least highly, in the NBA draft, but are going to be some of the best players in college basketball. Give you some award predictions, give you my March Madness pick, and we'll finish it off with some of the top storylines to follow this season. So we're going to start off in the Big 12. I think clearly the number 1 team here is going to be the Kansas Jayhawks. Even though Riley Kugel decommitted, Marco Jackson's the injury, this team is still the best team in the Big 12. A projected lineup of DeJuan Harris, Zeke Mayo, AJ Storr, one of the top transfers in the country, KJ Adams, and one of the best players in the country, Hunter Dickinson, makes Kansas have one of the best starting fives in possibly all of college basketball. Next up, we're going to have Houston, that's kind of turned themselves into a defensive powerhouse over the last couple of years. Jamal Sheed did get drafted by the Toronto Raptors, so they have to replace him next year, but they have one of the top returning players in LJ Cryer, and they landed a top transfer in Milos Uzan from Oklahoma. Coming in third in the Big 12, we're going to have the Baylor Bears, led by Scott Drew. Getting an elite transfer in Jeremy Roach from Duke is going to help their backcourt out a ton. They have a top 5 recruit in all of college basketball, VJ Edgecombe, that's going to be their starting small forward. I expect Baylor to play a ton of small ball this season. It feels weird calling them a Big 12 team, but yeah, coming in at number 4 in the Big 12, I have the Arizona Wildcats. I feel like Arizona is one of the best teams throughout the regular season, but always fumbles in the March Madness tournament. They're always a 1 or a 2 seed. It was huge news when Caleb Love is returning once again. He averaged 18 points last year for the Wildcats. It just goes to show you, though, how stacked the Big 12 is in college ball right now. And 5th in the Big 12, I have Iowa State. Getting Deshaun Jackson from Charlotte and Nace Heiss from Northern Iowa are going to be huge additions to the squad. So let's go over to the SEC. Number 1, I got Alabama. It's crazy to say, though, that Alabama may be bigger of a powerhouse in basketball right now than football. They have one of the top players in the country, Mark Sears, leading the show for them. He returned. He averaged over 20 points per game last year. They got some elite transfers, and they also got Grant Nelson, the big man, to return as well. Alabama could definitely win it all next season. Next up, I have the Auburn Tigers, and they are headlined by one of the best big men in the country, Johnny Broome, who averaged over 16 points per game last season. Coming in at number 3, I have the Arkansas Razorbacks. They're going to be one of the most watched teams this year because they have Coach Calipari now, who left Kentucky to go to Arkansas, and he took some players with them, including starting point guard DJ Wagner. They picked up arguably the top transfer in the country, John L. Davis from FAU. Got a top 30 recruit in the country, Carter Knox, going there. Trayvon Brazile is returning, and I think Boogie Fland is going to be a surprising prospect this season. Coming in at number 4, I have the Tennessee Volunteers, who are led by Zakai Ziegler, one of the best guards in the country. They got a ton of transfers as well, and it's going to be interesting to see how they respond in the post-Dalton Connect era. And 5th in the SEC, I have Texas A&M. They have a brutal start to their schedule this year, so I wouldn't be surprised if they're outside the top 25 for a little bit, but I do think they're going to end the season within the top 25. Now let's go over to the ACC, which once felt like the biggest conference on all of college basketball, but maybe not so right now. I do think the best team in the ACC, though, is the Duke Blue Devils. John Schreier has done a phenomenal job recruiting since he took over the coaching job from Coach K. A projected starting 5 of Tyrese Proctor, Caleb Foster, the number 1 recruit, Cooper Flagg, Syracuse transfer Malik Brown, and top 10 recruit Kaman Malak, and Isaiah Evans and Con Knipple off the bench. Duke is going to be must-watch this year, especially for the 2025 NBA draft. Coming in at number 2, I have the UNC Tar Heels. They got their backcourt returning in RJ Davis, one of the best scoring guards in the country, and Elliot Cadeau, who I think is going to have a big sophomore year. They got some big wing recruits in Ian Jackson and Drake Powell. Both could definitely be first-round picks in this upcoming NBA draft, and also getting a great scoring forward in the transfer portal as well, and Cade Tyson from Belmont is going to make UNC a potential title contender this season. Coming in at number 3, I have Wake Forest, headlined by a top returning player in Hunter Salas, who could have been a first-round pick in last year's NBA draft, and the head coach Steve Forbes has been one of the most rising head coaches in all of college basketball. Coming in at number 4, I have the Miami Hurricanes. Last year, they were very disappointing. They ended the season on a 10-game losing streak, but I'm really excited to see what Matthew Cleveland can do since he's returning to Miami. And coming in at number 5, I have the Clemson Tigers, who are going to be headlined by their returning guard, Chase Hunter, 6'4". He averaged 13 points and 3 assists last year. Now let's talk about the Big East, which in my opinion is the most entertaining conference to watch right now in college basketball. Obviously, coming in at number 1, we have the reigning back-to-back champions, the UConn Huskies. Dan Hurley did not take the Lakers job. He's UConn's head coach again. Alex Caravan could have been a first-round pick, but he decided to withdraw from the draft and is coming back to UConn. Liam McNeely decided not to go to Indiana, and now he's going to UConn, one of the best shooters that is an incoming freshman. again, and this team can realistically three-peat. Coming in at number 2, I have the Creighton Blue Jays, who could also be a national title contender as well, headlined by returning Steve Ashworth, Ryan Kalkbrenner, and top transfer Pop Isaacs from Texas Tech. Coming in at number 3, I do have Marquette, who did lose Tower Kolek and Oso Ighodaro in the 2024 NBA draft, but they're going to be just fine with Cam Jones and Stevie Mitchell running the show. At number 4, I'm glad they're just back to being relevant. I got St. John's, headlined by their head coach, Rick Pitino, and getting Devon Smith from Utah was a huge transfer get for them. And coming in at number 5, I have Providence, but I could also see Xavier, Villanova, and Seton Hall taking this number 5 spot as well. Now let's go to the Big Ten, which may not be great this year, but I still think Purdue is going to be the best team in this conference. No more Zach Edey. They were able to bring back Braden Smith, who's one of the best point guards in the country. Even though they did lose Liam McNeely, I got Indiana number 2 because their starting 5 is super well balanced right now. Coming in at number 3, I have the UCLA Bruins, who got some nice transfers from USC and Oregon State and kept their top backcourt guys in Dylan Andrews and Sebastian Mack. At number 4, I have Rutgers, who are obviously going to be so much fun to watch this year because they got 2 top 5 recruits coming in that could also be 2 top 3 picks in the 2025 NBA draft in Dylan Harper and Ace Bailey. And lastly, I'm going to have Illinois. They got Kai Boswell from Arizona, and they landed a very fun recruit in Kasparis Akushanis, who could be a top 10 pick in the 2025 draft. And my top 5 non-power conference teams, the only one that I think is a true top 25 team is Gonzaga, and they have a real solid backcourt right now with Ryan Nembhard and Nolan Hickman. And then my other top 5 non-power conference teams, I have Memphis from the American Conference, St. Mary's from the WCC, Grand Canyon, and then VCU. So let's run through my top 10 teams in the country going into this season. Number 1, I do have the Kansas Jayhawks. Number 2, I have Houston. So yeah, the top 2 teams I have from the Big 12. At number 3, I have UConn. You got to give them their respect. At number 4, I have Alabama. Shout out to what Nate Oates has done for that program. At number 5, I have Gonzaga. At number 6, I have Duke. A lot of pressures on their freshman group, but I do think they can excel this year. 7, I have Arizona. 8, I have Baylor. 9, I have UNC. And 10, I have Iowa State. Yeah, 4 of the top 10 teams in the country right now, I think, are in the Big 12. That conference is loaded. So let's run through the top 10 prospects, in my opinion, that are going to be playing in college basketball that should be in the 2025 NBA draft. Obviously, number 1, you have Cooper Flagg at Duke. And then you have the Rutgers boys in Ace Bailey and Dylan Harper. You got to talk about VJ Edgecombe at Baylor, who I mentioned before. Kamal Mawak at Duke. Trey Johnson at Texas. Liam McNeely at UConn. Igor Demon at BYU, who could be a sneaky top 10 pick. Drake Powell at UNC. And Jaleel Bethea at Miami. And then here are 10 players that may not go in the lottery of the first round or maybe even in the 2025 NBA draft, but are going to be some of the best players in college basketball. You have Hunter Dickinson at Kansas, RJ Davis at UNC, Mark Sears at Alabama, AJ Storr at Kansas, LJ Cryer at Houston, John L. Davis at Arkansas, Khalif Battle at Gonzaga, former Temple Owl, had to mention that, Zeke Mayo at Kansas, Tyrese Proctor at Duke, Ryan Nembhard at Gonzaga, and Grant Nelson at Alabama. 5 of my favorite storylines to follow this year is Cooper Flagg, the real deal. Can he be the consensus number 1 pick that we all think he can be? Next up, what is going to be going on with Arkansas? They got Coach K. They have a great recruiting class, a good transfer class. Can Coach K make them one of the more relevant teams in all of college basketball? At number 3, I want to talk about Rutgers. They're going to be must watch this year, like I said, because of Ace Bailey and Dylan Harper. And for the first time in a while, Rutgers is going to be one of the more entertaining teams to watch because of those 2 incoming freshmen. Number 4 is the ACC dying. I talked about how loaded the Big 12 is, how entertaining the Big East is. The ACC used to be one of the best conferences in all of college basketball. I feel like it's just sliding down right now. And lastly, can UConn three-peat? Can Dan Early show that he's one of the best college basketball coaches of all time and win 3 national championships in a row? I do think the Wooden Award winner, which is basically the MVP of college basketball, is going to be Hunter Dickinson at Kansas. And I do think the best incoming freshman is going to be Cooper Flagg, and he's going to earn his way to being the number 1 pick in the 2025 draft. My favorite to win March Madness this year is going to be the Kansas Jayhawks, because I do think Hunter Dickinson, while he is older, and it's probably a reason why, he's going to be the best player in college basketball, and getting AJ Storr in the transfer portal was huge from Wisconsin. But a sleeper team that I think could make a run that isn't a consensus top 10 team right now is Creighton, because they added 2 big wings in the transfer portal, and I just really think that Ryan Kalkbrenner could be one of the best big men in the country, and Steve Ashworth could be one of the best guards in the Big East, and maybe even larger than that. So that is going to be it for me. I hope you guys did enjoy my official 2025 college basketball predictions. If you're going to be following this year, let me know your predictions in the comments below. Do you agree with what I said? Do you disagree? Please let me know, and drop a like if you guys want to see more college content on the channel. Love you guys, and I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.